I never imagined that an Easter lunch would shatter my entire world. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and just 6 months ago, I was a successful tech startup founder living what seemed like the perfect life. That was until my mother-in-law, Barbara, demanded I sign over my company shares to her son, my husband James, in front of our entire family. A moment that would expose the true nature of the people I had trusted most. My story begins in Seattle's bustling tech scene, where I spent the last decade building my cybersecurity company from the ground up. Growing up in a small town in Idaho with parents who ran a modest hardware store, I learned the value of hard work and determination early on. Nobody in my family had ever ventured into the tech world, but I was different. While other kids played in the neighborhood, I spent countless hours learning to code on a secondhand computer my father had brought home from an auction. The path to success wasn't easy. After graduating as valedictorian from my local high school, I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college at the University of Washington. During my senior year, I developed an innovative approach to protecting small businesses from cyber threats, an idea that would eventually become SecureFlow, my company. I remember those early days, working from a tiny apartment in Capitol Hill, living on instant noodles and coffee, pouring every penny I earned from my day job as an IT consultant into my dream. The breakthrough came when I secured my first major client, a regional bank that took a chance on my startup. Within 2 years, SecureFlow had grown from a one-woman operation to a team of 15 talented developers and cybersecurity experts. We were making waves in the industry, protecting hundreds of small businesses from digital threats with our innovative software solution. My company wasn't just successful, it was making a real difference in people's lives. I met James at a tech conference in Vancouver. He was there representing his family's venture capital firm, Mitchell Investments, and seemed genuinely interested in my vision for democratizing cybersecurity for small businesses. James was everything I wasn't: born into wealth, educated at prestigious private schools, and connected to Seattle's elite business circles. But he never made me feel inferior. Instead, he celebrated my achievements and supported my ambitions. Or so I thought. Our whirlwind romance led to marriage within a year. The wedding was an elaborate affair at the Mitchell family estate overlooking Puget Sound, far grander than anything I could have imagined for myself. James's mother, Barbara, a formidable figure in Seattle's social scene, orchestrated every detail. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs in how she subtly dismissed my family's suggestions and traditions, always insisting on doing things the Mitchell way. The first year of marriage was a delicate balance between running my growing company and fitting into the Mitchell family's sophisticated world. Barbara would often make comments about how unusual it was for a wife to spend so much time at the office, or how quaint it was that I insisted on being so hands-on with my business when we could easily hire management to run it. I tried to brush off these remarks, focusing instead on SecureFlow's continuing success. By our second year of marriage, SecureFlow had grown to 50 employees and was valued at over $30 million. We had just secured a major round of funding, and industry analysts were calling us one of Seattle's most promising tech startups. I was proud of what I'd built, but I could sense growing tension at home. James began suggesting that I step back from day-to-day operations, arguing that I was working too hard and that we should start thinking about having children. His mother's visits became more frequent, and her comments about my role as a wife grew increasingly pointed. I didn't realize then that my success, the very thing that had initially attracted James to me, would become the catalyst for my undoing. As SecureFlow's profile rose in the tech community, I noticed subtle changes in how the Mitchells treated me. Barbara's polite smiles became strained, and James's supportive attitude toward my career began to waver. Looking back, I can see now that they never expected my company to become so successful. They had anticipated a small venture they could easily control through James, not an emerging tech force with me firmly at the helm. The Easter lunch that would change everything was planned at the Mitchell estate, a tradition Barbara insisted we maintain. That morning, as I drove up the winding driveway lined with blooming cherry trees, I had no idea I was about to face the most challenging test of my life, one that would force me to choose between my marriage and the company I had built from nothing. The roots of my journey run deeper than my marriage to James or my success with SecureFlow. To truly understand how I found myself at that fateful Easter lunch, you need to know where I came from. My childhood in Twin Falls, Idaho was far removed from the gleaming skyscrapers and tech innovations of Seattle. Our family hardware store, Mitchell's Home and Garden, ironically sharing the same name as my future in-laws, sat on the corner of Main Street, its faded green awning a familiar sight to every local resident. My parents, Richard and Marie, worked tirelessly to keep the store afloat during the rise of big-box retailers. I spent my afternoons after school watching them help customers find the perfect tool for a home project or advise on garden supplies. They taught me that success wasn't just about making money, it was about solving people's problems and building trust in your community. The old gateway computer in our store's back office became my window to a different world. While my father used it for inventory and accounting, I discovered the fascinating world of programming during my free time. I still remember the thrill of writing my first piece of code, a simple program to help track our store's most popular items. My mother would often find me there late at night, the blue glow of the monitor illuminating my determined face as I debugged lines of code. My high school teachers didn't quite know what to make of me. In a town where success was typically measured by how well you could run a farm or manage a local business, my dreams of tech entrepreneurship seemed like fantasy. The guidance counselor suggested I consider more realistic options, perhaps taking over the family store or pursuing a teaching career. But I had inherited my parents' determination, along with their work ethic. The day I received my acceptance letter from the University of Washington, along with a partial scholarship, was both the proudest and most terrifying moment of my young life. My parents couldn't afford to pay for my education. The store was barely breaking even, but they supported my decision completely. My mother sold her cherished collection of antique jewelry, and my father took on extra work as a handyman on weekends to help with my first semester's expenses. Seattle was a culture shock. My small-town wardrobe and Idaho accent marked me as an outsider among my more sophisticated classmates. During my freshman year, I worked as a barista in the morning, a library assistant in the afternoon, and a coding tutor in the evening. My roommate, who came from a wealthy family in San Francisco, couldn't understand why I pushed myself so hard. "Just take out more student loans," she'd say. But I remembered watching my parents struggle with the store's mortgage and vowed to avoid debt as much as possible. It was during my sophomore year that I first encountered cybersecurity. A local coffee shop where I worked had its customer database hacked, forcing them to close for weeks. The owner, an elderly woman who treated her employees like family, lost nearly everything. This incident sparked something in me, a realization that small businesses, the backbone of communities like my hometown, were vulnerable in ways my parents' generation never had to consider. I switched my focus from general computer science to cybersecurity, often being the only woman in my advanced classes. My professors noticed my dedication, and one of them, Dr. Sarah Chen, became my mentor. She was the first person who made me believe that my background wasn't a disadvantage, but an asset. "You understand small business owners because you grew up with them," she would say. "That understanding is worth more than any privilege." The idea for SecureFlow came from combining my childhood experiences with my technical education. I saw how expensive and complicated existing cybersecurity solutions were, far beyond what a small business like my parents' store could afford or manage. During my senior year, I worked on a simplified security system that could protect small businesses without requiring a dedicated IT team. My final year of college tested every ounce of my determination. While my classmates attended career fairs and accepted lucrative job offers from tech giants, I was building prototypes in my apartment and cold calling small businesses to understand their needs. My parents, though worried about my future, continued to support my vision. "You've got your father's head for business and your mother's heart for helping others," my dad would say during our weekly phone calls. "That's a combination that can't fail." I graduated with honors, but instead of walking straight into a comfortable corporate job, I took a position as an IT consultant that allowed me flexible hours. My tiny Capitol Hill apartment became SecureFlow's first office, with my bed doubling as a conference room during video calls with potential clients. Every rejection, every unanswered email, every failed pitch made me work harder. I knew I wasn't just building a business. I was creating something that could protect thousands of small business owners like my parents. Looking back at those early days, I realized that my humble beginnings had given me something the Mitchells, with all their wealth and connections, couldn't understand. The ability to build something from nothing, to persevere when failure seemed inevitable, and to stay true to my vision despite pressure to conform to others' expectations. These were the qualities that would ultimately save me when my world began to crumble at that Easter lunch. The years before meeting James were marked by the kind of struggles that either break you or forge you into something stronger. While SecureFlow was still in its infancy, I experienced setbacks that would have made most people question their path. My first office was a cramped co-working space in downtown Seattle, where I shared a desk with 3 other startups. The space was so small that I had to take client calls in the building's stairwell, trying to sound professional while delivery cyclists rushed past me. My first attempt at launching SecureFlow's prototype was a disaster. After 6 months of development, the software crashed during a demonstration for a potential investor, wiping out an entire test database. The investor, a well-known figure in Seattle's tech scene, didn't just reject my pitch. He made sure other venture capital firms knew about the failure. For weeks afterward, my emails went unanswered, and my calls were redirected to assistants, who politely told me their firms weren't interested. But it was during this time that I learned the most valuable lessons about business and resilience. I took a part-time job as a cybersecurity consultant for a local tech firm, using my daytime experiences to refine SecureFlow at night. Every security breach I handled, every vulnerable system I encountered, helped me understand what small businesses really needed. I wasn't just creating another cybersecurity product. I was building a solution that could protect people's dreams. The turning point came when a series of ransomware attacks hit several small businesses in Pioneer Square. Among the victims was a family-owned bookstore that had been operating for 3 generations. The owner, Ellen Martinez, had approached several major cybersecurity firms for help, but their solutions were either too expensive or too complex for her needs. When she found me through a local business forum, I saw an opportunity to prove SecureFlow's worth. I spent 2 weeks working around the clock, sleeping on a worn-out couch in my office, fine-tuning SecureFlow to protect Ellen's store. The software wasn't perfect, but it was simple enough for her to understand and maintain. When another wave of attacks hit the area 3 months later, Ellen's bookstore was the only business in her block that remained unaffected. Word spread quickly through Seattle's tight-knit small business community. Soon, I had a waiting list of local businesses wanting to implement SecureFlow. Each new client brought unique challenges that helped me improve the software. A food truck owner needed a solution that worked with unreliable internet connections. A local art gallery required protection for their digital payment systems. Every problem solved made SecureFlow stronger and more versatile, but success came with its own set of challenges. As demand grew, I needed to hire developers, but convincing talented programmers to join a startup with uncertain funding was nearly impossible. I remember interviewing candidates in coffee shops because I was embarrassed by my small office. Most would listen politely to my pitch about protecting small businesses, then politely decline when they heard the salary I could offer, far below what established tech companies were paying. My breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Rachel Chen, a brilliant developer who had just left one of Seattle's largest tech companies, agreed to join SecureFlow for a fraction of her previous salary. When I asked her why, she told me about her parents' restaurant that had been forced to close after a cyber attack wiped out their ordering system and customer data. "What you're building matters," she said. "I'd rather work on something meaningful than just add to some corporations." Bottom line, Rachel became more than my first employee. She became my partner in building SecureFlow's future. Together, we rebuilt the software from the ground up, making it more robust and user-friendly. We worked 18-hour days, fueled by cheap coffee, and shared determination. When things got tough, we reminded each other of all the small businesses counting on us. The pressure was immense. I had maxed out 2 credit cards and taken a loan against my car to make payroll. Every month was a race against time, trying to bring in enough revenue to keep the lights on. I cut every possible expense, moving to a cheaper apartment and selling most of my possessions. My diet consisted mainly of instant noodles and whatever was on sale at the local grocery store. During this period, I learned to trust my instincts and stand firm in my decisions, skills that would prove crucial later when facing the Mitchells. I turned down several offers from larger companies wanting to buy SecureFlow because their plans involved raising prices beyond what our small business clients could afford. Each rejection meant continuing our financial struggle, but it also meant staying true to our mission. The stress took its toll. I developed insomnia, often finding myself working at 3 a.m., debugging code or responding to client emails. My few friends in Seattle stopped inviting me to social events, knowing I would either decline or spend the entire time on my phone managing work crises. My parents worried about my health, hearing the exhaustion in my voice during our weekly calls. But gradually, things began to improve. Our client base grew steadily, and word-of-mouth recommendations brought in new businesses daily. We moved to a proper office in South Lake Union, hired 3 more developers, and finally had a reliable income stream. The software was stable, our clients were happy, and industry publications began taking notice of our unique approach to small business cybersecurity. I was just beginning to feel like I could breathe again when I met James Mitchell at that Vancouver tech conference. Looking back, I realized that my struggles had made me strong, but also vulnerable. I was so used to fighting every battle alone that when James offered support and understanding, it felt like a relief I hadn't known I needed. If only I had known then that this apparent rescue would lead to the biggest fight of my life. The tech conference in Vancouver would have been just another business event if fate hadn't intervened. I was there to present SecureFlow's latest security framework for small businesses, scheduled for the morning session in one of the smaller conference rooms. Most attendees were heading to the main hall to hear keynote speeches from Silicon Valley giants, but I had a dedicated group of small business owners and local tech enthusiasts interested in my presentation. Technical difficulties delayed my presentation. The irony of a cybersecurity expert struggling with AV equipment wasn't lost on me. As I frantically tried to connect my laptop to the projector, a tall figure approached from the back of the room. "Mind if I help?" he asked with a warm smile. That was James Mitchell, though I didn't know it then. Within minutes, he had the system working perfectly, and I was able to start my presentation. I noticed him sitting in the front row throughout my talk, taking notes and nodding encouragingly. Unlike the usual tech conference audience in hoodies and jeans, he wore a perfectly tailored suit that somehow didn't make him seem out of place. When I discussed how traditional cybersecurity solutions often failed small businesses, he asked insightful questions that showed genuine interest in the problem we were solving. After the presentation, while I was packing up my equipment, James approached again. "Your approach to democratizing cybersecurity is fascinating," he said. "Would you be interested in discussing it over coffee?" Something about his genuine enthusiasm for the technical aspects of SecureFlow made me accept, despite my usual caution about mixing business with pleasure. We ended up talking for hours at a small cafe overlooking Vancouver Harbor. James shared stories about his work at Mitchell Investments, his family's venture capital firm, but he seemed more interested in my journey. He asked about the challenges small businesses faced, listened intently to my experiences, and shared his own ideas about making technology more accessible. Most VCs see technology as a way to maximize profit, he told me, stirring his third cup of coffee. But you're using it to protect people's dreams. That's rare in this industry. His words resonated with me because they reflected exactly what I was trying to achieve with SecureFlow. The connection was immediate and powerful. James wasn't just another tech investor. He seemed to understand the human side of technology. When I told him about Ellen's bookstore and how SecureFlow had protected her family's legacy, his eyes lit up. That's the kind of impact technology should have, he said. Not just disruption for disruption's sake, but real protection for real people. Before we knew it, the cafe was closing. James asked for my business card and promised to stay in touch. I left Vancouver feeling optimistic about the potential partnership with Mitchell Investments, but also intrigued by James himself. Here was someone who seemed to bridge the gap between my world of startups and bootstrapping and the more established tech investment community. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. James made frequent trips to Seattle for business meetings that always seemed to end with dinner discussions about SecureFlow's future. He brought fresh perspectives to our challenges, suggesting solutions I hadn't considered. When I mentioned our struggle to handle growing customer support demands, he connected me with a startup specializing in AI-powered customer service solutions. Our professional relationship quickly evolved into something more personal. James would send me articles about cybersecurity trends or small business challenges, showing he was genuinely engaged with my work. He started attending local tech meetups, where I spoke, offering quiet support from the back of the room. Unlike previous relationships where I had to downplay my work commitments, James seemed to admire my dedication to SecureFlow. One rainy Seattle evening, after a particularly successful product launch, James took me to dinner at Canlis. As we overlooked the city lights reflecting off Lake Union, he confessed that his initial interest in SecureFlow had been purely professional, but he had found himself falling for the passionate founder behind it. "You're changing the world in your own way," he said, "and I find that incredibly attractive." What followed was a romance that seemed to perfectly balance my professional ambitions with personal happiness. James understood my late nights at the office because he often worked late himself. He celebrated SecureFlow's successes as if they were his own and offered comfort and perspective when we faced setbacks. When a competitor launched a similar product, James helped me strategize ways to differentiate SecureFlow rather than suggesting, I backed down. His family's reputation in Seattle's business community opened doors that had previously been closed to me. Suddenly, investors who had ignored my emails were eager to meet. Industry events that had been out of reach became accessible. James insisted this was all due to SecureFlow's merit, but I knew his name had helped get us in the room. Our courtship was swift but didn't feel rushed. Within 6 months, we were discussing marriage. James proposed during a private dinner at his family's estate, after a long conversation about our shared vision for the future. He spoke about combining our strengths, my innovative spirit and his business connections, to make an even bigger impact in the tech world. "We could be an unstoppable team," he said, getting down on one knee. "Your drive, my resources. Together, we could help more small businesses than ever before." The ring he offered was elegant but not flashy, exactly my style. It seemed to symbolize how well he understood me. In that moment, everything felt perfect. I was in love with a man who supported my dreams, who understood my work, who seemed to want to build something meaningful together. Looking back now, I realize I was so focused on how well James fit into my world that I didn't pay enough attention to how I might fit into his, or rather, how his family expected me to fit into theirs. The early days of our marriage seemed perfect, a seamless blend of professional success and personal happiness. We moved into a beautiful craftsman house in Queen Anne, with views of the Space Needle and Puget Sound that still took my breath away every morning. James converted one of the spare rooms into a home office for me, complete with multiple monitors and a dedicated fiber optic line for secure testing of SecureFlow's updates. Our life together had a rhythm that felt natural. We'd start our mornings with coffee on the deck, discussing our plans for the day. James would head to Mitchell Investments' downtown office, while I split my time between SecureFlow's headquarters and my home workspace. In the evenings, we'd share stories about our day, often brainstorming solutions to each other's business challenges. James seemed genuinely excited about SecureFlow's growth, offering valuable insights from his venture capital experience. SecureFlow was thriving. Our client base had expanded beyond Seattle, with small businesses across the West Coast adopting our security solutions. We'd grown to a team of 35, and I'd just hired an experienced COO to help manage our rapid expansion. The industry was taking notice. We were featured in TechCrunch, and I was invited to speak at major cybersecurity conferences. Each success felt sweeter because I had someone to share it with who truly understood its significance. The first few dinners with the Mitchell family went surprisingly well. Barbara, my mother-in-law, seemed impressed by my business acumen, often asking detailed questions about SecureFlow's growth strategy. "It's refreshing to see a young woman with such clear vision," she'd say, topping up my wine glass. James's father, Richard Sr., was quieter but supportive, occasionally offering advice from his decades of investment experience. James's sister, Catherine, became an unexpected ally. A venture capitalist herself, she understood the challenges of being a woman in tech. We'd often find ourselves deep in conversation about industry trends while Barbara orchestrated elaborate family dinners. "You're good for James," Catherine told me one evening. "He needs someone who challenges him to think beyond traditional investment strategies." Our social life expanded to include regular events with Seattle's tech elite. Charity galas, startup launches, and investment dinners became routine. James proudly introduced me as both his wife and a successful founder, never seeming threatened by my growing reputation in the tech community. At these events, we were often cited as an example of how marriage and business could strengthen each other. The Mitchell family's connections proved invaluable as SecureFlow expanded. When we needed to secure additional server capacity quickly after a surge in clients, Richard Sr. introduced me to a data center operator who offered preferential rates. When we were looking to expand our marketing team, Catherine recommended several talented professionals from her network. It felt like I had gained not just a husband, but a powerful business network that believed in my vision. Barbara took particular interest in my professional development, offering to mentor me in what she called the finer points of business leadership. She arranged lunches with prominent businesswomen in her social circle, organized my attendance at exclusive business retreats, and even hired a personal stylist to help me dress for the role of a CEO. At the time, I interpreted these gestures as acceptance and support. James and I started talking about expanding SecureFlow's services to medium-sized businesses, a move that would require significant capital investment. Over dinner at Altura, one of Seattle's finest restaurants, he suggested that Mitchell Investments could lead our next funding round. "Think about it," he said, eyes bright with excitement. "We could make SecureFlow a family enterprise, combining your innovation with our investment expertise." The idea was tempting. Mitchell Investments had a strong track record of growing tech companies, and their involvement would lend additional credibility to SecureFlow. James talked about accelerating our expansion plans, possibly even taking the company international. Barbara hosted a dinner party to introduce me to potential investors from their network, all of whom seemed eager to be part of SecureFlow's growth story. Looking back, I should have noticed how the conversations about SecureFlow's future increasingly happened at Mitchell family events rather than in my office with my team. Barbara began organizing weekly strategy sessions over lunch, inviting prominent business figures who always seemed to have suggestions about how SecureFlow should evolve. James started attending more of my board meetings, offering insights that increasingly aligned with his family's investment philosophy. At the time, I rationalized these changes as natural evolution. After all, wasn't this what I had wanted? A supportive family, access to resources and expertise, and a partner who understood both the personal and professional aspects of my life. The lines between SecureFlow and the Mitchell family were blurring, but I convinced myself this was a positive development. Even when Barbara began suggesting changes to SecureFlow's management structure, I didn't see the red flags. Her recommendations seemed logical, bringing in more experienced executives, restructuring the board to include seasoned investors, establishing a more professional corporate hierarchy. Each suggestion was presented as a way to help SecureFlow grow, wrapped in maternal concern for both the company's and my personal success. This was the dream phase of my life, when everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place. SecureFlow was growing, my marriage was strong, and I felt accepted by a family that could offer both personal support and professional opportunities. I was living what seemed like a perfect integration of love and ambition, personal happiness, and professional success. Little did I know that this period of seeming perfection was setting the stage for a dramatic confrontation that would force me to choose between my life's work and my marriage. The Easter lunch that would change everything was still months away, but the seeds of conflict were already being planted in these apparently perfect moments. The first cracks in my perfect world appeared so subtly that I almost missed them. It started with small comments from Barbara during our weekly family dinners. "Sarah, darling," she'd say, swirling her wineglass thoughtfully, "don't you think you're spreading yourself a bit thin? Running a company is demanding enough without trying to be hands-on with every decision." Initially, these remarks seemed to come from a place of genuine concern. After all, I was working long hours, often taking calls during dinner and spending weekends at the office. But gradually, the frequency and tone of these comments began to shift. Barbara started inviting her friends' daughters to our family gatherings, all of whom had given up promising careers after marriage to focus on more important things. One particular incident stands out in my memory. We were hosting a dinner party at our Queen Anne home, celebrating SecureFlow's successful launch of a new security platform. I was in the middle of explaining our innovation to a group of interested investors when Barbara smoothly interrupted, steering the conversation toward James's role in the company's growth. "Sarah's so fortunate to have James's guidance," she said, patting my hand. "It's made such a difference having a Mitchell involved in the day-to-day decisions." The thing was, James wasn't involved in SecureFlow's day-to-day operations. He offered advice when asked, but we'd maintained clear boundaries between his work at Mitchell Investments and my role as SecureFlow's CEO. Yet increasingly, Barbara's comments implied a different narrative, one where James was the strategic mind behind our success. During a charity gala at the Seattle Art Museum, I overheard Barbara talking to her friends. "Of course, James has been instrumental in turning that little security project into a real company," she said, unaware I was within earshot. Sarah had some good ideas, but she needed the Mitchell touch to make them viable. The dismissive way she referred to my company, my life's work, felt like a physical blow. The dynamics at board meetings began to shift as well. James started attending more frequently, often arriving with detailed suggestions for corporate restructuring. These proposals usually involved bringing in more experienced executives, invariably connected to the Mitchell family, and gradually reducing my operational role to focus on innovation and vision. "It's just good business sense," James would explain when I expressed concerns. "You're brilliant at the technical side, honey, but as the company grows, we need more seasoned business leadership." Each time he made it sound logical, reasonable, as if I hadn't been the one successfully leading SecureFlow's growth for years. Barbara's influence became more overt in other ways. She began organizing business lunches without consulting me, inviting potential investors and board members to discuss SecureFlow's future. I would arrive to find meetings already in progress, strategies being discussed without my input. "Oh, Sarah," she'd say with a practiced smile, "we didn't want to bother you with these preliminary discussions. We know how busy you are with the technical details." The pressure to conform to their vision of a proper CEO became increasingly apparent. Barbara arranged for an image consultant to polish my presentation style. "Darling, you're not running a small startup anymore," she explained when I objected. "You need to project the right image for the Mitchell name." The consultant suggested I tone down my passionate speaking style, adopt more conservative attire, and let others take the lead in technical discussions. Even my relationship with my development team began to feel strained. New hires, recommended by the Mitchells, would bypass my authority, taking their proposals directly to James or the board. In meetings, I noticed some executives deferring to James's opinion over mine, despite my deeper understanding of our technology and market. The situation came to a head during a critical product development meeting. We were discussing the launch of a new security feature specifically designed for family-owned businesses, a project close to my heart. In the middle of my presentation, one of the recently hired executives, a close friend of the Mitchell family, interrupted with an alternative proposal. His plan involved significantly raising our prices and focusing on larger corporate clients. "With all due respect, Sarah," he said, though his tone carried none, "we need to think bigger. Small businesses are a nice starting point, but the real money is in enterprise solutions." I began to explain how this contradicted SecureFlow's core mission, but before I could finish, James chimed in supporting the new direction. The room's atmosphere shifted palpably as other executives quickly aligned with his position. That evening, during a tense discussion at home, James couldn't understand my frustration. "This is business, Sarah. Companies evolve. You can't let emotional attachments to your original vision hold SecureFlow back." His words echoed Barbara's frequent assertions that I was too emotionally invested in the company. I started noticing how board meetings were being scheduled when I had other commitments, how decision-making was gradually being shifted to committees dominated by Mitchell allies, how my role was being subtly but systematically diminished. My innovative security company, built to protect small businesses like my parents' hardware store, was being quietly transformed into something I no longer recognized. These changes weren't just professional, they were affecting my personal life too. James and I started having more arguments, usually ending with him suggesting I was being paranoid or ungrateful for his family's involvement. The warm, supportive partner who had encouraged my dreams was being replaced by someone who seemed increasingly aligned with his family's vision for SecureFlow's future. The mounting tension took its toll on every aspect of my life. Each morning, I'd wake up feeling like I was walking into a battlefield rather than the company I'd built from scratch. The SecureFlow office, once my sanctuary of innovation and purpose, began to feel like hostile territory. New faces appeared regularly, all somehow connected to the Mitchell family, and with them came subtle shifts in company culture. I particularly remember one Wednesday morning when I walked into a strategy meeting to find Barbara sitting at the head of the table, a position I usually occupied. She was deep in discussion with our new CFO, Thomas Bradford, a longtime Mitchell family associate. "Oh, Sarah," she said without moving, "we were just discussing some exciting changes to SecureFlow's financial structure. Come join us." The casual way she'd usurped my position spoke volumes about the power dynamics at play. The changes being implemented were systematic and calculated. Our customer service team, which had prided itself on providing personalized support to small business owners, was being restructured to handle more efficient, high-volume corporate clients. The development team was pressured to focus on enterprise-level solutions, pushing our original small business security tools to the background. Even our marketing materials were being revamped to target larger companies, with terms like enterprise grade and corporate solutions, replacing our original message of accessible cybersecurity for all. During a particularly heated executive meeting, I challenged these changes, presenting data that showed our strong performance in the small business market. Our current model is profitable and growing, I argued, displaying charts of our customer satisfaction rates and revenue growth. Why abandon a successful strategy? Barbara, who had taken to attending these meetings regularly, exchanged knowing looks with James before he responded. "Sarah, honey," he said in that patronizing tone that had become increasingly common. "You need to understand that Mitchell Investments has a broader vision for SecureFlow. We're not just thinking about next quarter's profits, we're positioning the company for major market expansion." The way he said "we" made it clear who he meant by that pronoun, and it didn't include me. The situation at home deteriorated in parallel with the office tensions. Our once engaging dinner conversations about business innovation turned into terse exchanges or silent meals. James spent more time at his family's estate, claiming he needed to strategize SecureFlow's future with his father and their business associates. When he was home, he was constantly on the phone with Barbara or various board members, speaking in hushed tones that fell silent when I entered the room. One evening, I found a document left open on James's laptop, a draft proposal for SecureFlow's restructuring. It detailed plans to create a new parent company, majority owned by Mitchell Investments, with a reorganized board that would effectively dilute my voting power. My heart raced as I read through the proposal, which included provisions for moving me to a chief innovation officer role, a professional demotion disguised as a promotion. When I confronted James about the document, his response was telling. "You're taking this too personally," he said, closing his laptop with a snap. "This is just business. The board, your board, believes this structure would be better for SecureFlow's growth." The emphasis he placed on "your board" carried an ironic tone, given how thoroughly it had been stacked with Mitchell allies. The isolation grew more pronounced as weeks passed. Longtime employees, people who had been with me since SecureFlow's early days, were being systematically pushed out or reassigned. Rachel Chen, my first hire and trusted developer, was moved to a subsidiary project despite my objections. "I'm sorry, Sarah," she told me tearfully on her last day, "but it's clear I'm not part of their vision for SecureFlow's future." Barbara's influence became more overt and controlling. She began showing up at my office unannounced, often with consultants or potential investors in tow. "Sarah's so busy with the technical side," she would tell them, "but I'd be happy to discuss SecureFlow's strategic direction." She started scheduling meetings with our key clients without my knowledge, presenting herself as the company's strategic advisor. The breaking point came during a board meeting where I presented plans for a new security feature specifically designed for small retailers. I had spent months working with our remaining original team members on this project, seeing it as a way to reinforce our commitment to small businesses. Before I could finish my presentation, Barbara interrupted. "While this is charming," she said, emphasizing the word in a way that made it sound like an insult, "we need to focus on enterprise-level solutions. The Mitchell name carries certain expectations, and it's time SecureFlow lived up to them." The room fell silent, all eyes darting between Barbara and me. It was a direct challenge to my leadership, delivered in front of the entire board. That evening, during another tense dinner at home, James suggested I take some time off to think about my role in the company's future. His words echoed his mother's earlier statement so closely that I knew they had discussed this beforehand. "You're exhausted, honey," he said, reaching for my hand across the table. "Let us handle things for a while. Mother has some excellent ideas for SecureFlow's direction." The growing pressure began to affect me deeply. I started doubting my own instincts, questioning decisions I would have made confidently just months before. The strong, decisive CEO who had built SecureFlow from nothing was being systematically undermined, and I felt myself beginning to crack under the constant scrutiny and criticism. My sleep suffered first. I'd lie awake at night, replaying conversations from board meetings, thinking of responses I should have given to Barbara's subtle jabs, or ways I could have better defended my vision for the company. When I did sleep, I'd have anxiety dreams about losing control of SecureFlow, waking up in cold sweats at 3 a.m. to check my company email for any midnight decisions made without my input. The physical symptoms of stress became impossible to ignore. I developed persistent headaches and my hands would shake slightly during important meetings. My usually healthy appetite disappeared, and I lost weight rapidly. Enough that my executive assistant, one of the few original team members left, expressed concern. "Sarah, you don't look well," she said one morning, placing a cup of tea on my desk. "Maybe they're right about you needing a break." Even her gentle suggestion felt like a betrayal. During this period, I found myself increasingly isolated. The camaraderie I once shared with my development team had been replaced by awkward silences and averted gazes. New employees, hired through Mitchell connections, treated me with a strange mix of polite deference and subtle dismissal. In meetings, my comments were met with perfunctory nods before someone, usually a Mitchell appointee, steered the conversation in their preferred direction. I tried reaching out to my old mentor, Dr. Chen, but even that conversation left me more uncertain. "The tech world is changing, Sarah," she said carefully. "Sometimes we need to adapt our vision." She didn't say it, but I could hear the unspoken suggestion that maybe I was being too rigid, too emotional about maintaining SecureFlow's original mission. The worst part was doubting my own judgment. When Barbara suggested moving our focus away from small businesses, she presented market research and financial projections that made her strategy seem logical. "It's simple mathematics, dear," she would say, her voice dripping with maternal concern. "The enterprise market offers better returns with lower customer acquisition costs." I knew in my gut that this shift would abandon the very businesses we'd set out to protect, but the numbers she presented made my opposition seem emotional and irrational. James's behavior at home only amplified my self-doubt. He'd dismiss my concerns about the company's direction with casual remarks about my lack of big-picture thinking or emotional attachment to outdated ideas. When I tried to discuss the systematic displacement of original team members, he'd accuse me of being paranoid. "You're seeing conspiracies where there's only progress," he'd say, his tone a mixture of condescension and feigned concern. I started second-guessing every decision, no matter how small. Should I challenge the new marketing direction? Was I being unreasonable in wanting to maintain our small business focus? Was I really, as Barbara frequently suggested, letting personal sentiment cloud my business judgment? Each decision became paralyzingly difficult as I tried to navigate between my instincts and the constant pressure to conform to the Mitchell's vision. My parents noticed the change in me during our weekly video calls. "You don't sound like yourself, sweetheart," my mother said during one call. "Where's my confident girl who used to light up talking about her company?" I couldn't bring myself to explain how that confidence had been slowly chipped away, how every day felt like a battle just to maintain some semblance of control over my own creation. The final blow to my self-confidence came during a crucial client meeting with a regional bank, one that had been with us since the early days. I was presenting our updated security protocols when Barbara unexpectedly joined the meeting. She smoothly took over the presentation, suggesting changes to our service agreement that contradicted everything we'd built our relationship on. When I tried to intervene, she patted my hand patronizingly and said, "Let's leave the business details to those with more experience, dear." That evening, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, I barely recognized myself. The passionate entrepreneur who had once pitched her vision to skeptical investors with unwavering conviction was gone, replaced by someone who seemed constantly on edge, second-guessing every word and action. I had lost not just control of my company, but faith in my own abilities. This crisis of confidence was exactly what the Mitchells had been cultivating, I would later realize. A strong, self-assured founder would never agree to sign away her company. They needed me weakened, uncertain and isolated before they could make their final move. The Easter lunch was approaching, and I was exactly where they wanted me, doubting myself, cut off from my support system, and seemingly powerless to stop the systematic takeover of everything I had built. The breaking point arrived 3 days before Easter. I was working late in my office, reviewing the latest changes to our service agreements, changes I hadn't approved but had somehow been implemented anyway. The Seattle skyline glittered through my window, a view that used to inspire me but now felt like it was mocking my powerlessness. That's when James walked in, carrying a stack of documents and wearing an expression I'd never seen before. "We need to talk about SecureFlow's future," he announced, placing the documents on my desk. "Mother and the board have been discussing some necessary changes to the company's structure." His tone was businesslike, devoid of the warmth that had once characterized our relationship. Without waiting for my response, he began outlining a plan that made my blood run cold. The proposal was comprehensive and clearly well-planned. SecureFlow would be restructured under a new holding company, majority owned by Mitchell Investments. My role would be reduced to that of a technical advisor, with no real operational control. The document even included a press release draft, praising my visionary contribution, while announcing my transition to a strategic advisory role. "This is what's best for the company," James said, sliding the papers toward me. "Mother has arranged for all the major stakeholders to meet at Easter lunch. We can announce the changes then." He spoke as if this was already decided, as if my signature was just a formality. When I didn't immediately respond, he added, "Be reasonable, Sarah. This is a generous offer." I sat there, staring at the documents, feeling a strange calm settle over me. It was the kind of calm that comes when you finally see something you've been blind to for too long. "And if I refuse?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. James's expression hardened. "Then we'll need to explore other options to protect the company's interests," he replied, the threat barely veiled. That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to our original office building in South Lake Union, now used for storage. Sitting in the parking lot, I called Rachel Chen, my first employee who had been pushed out months earlier. "I need your help," I said when she answered. "And I need you to be very discreet." Over the next 2 days, Rachel and I worked secretly, reviewing SecureFlow's code repositories, documentation, and legal agreements. We discovered something crucial. The core security algorithms, the heart of SecureFlow's technology, were still protected under my original patents. The Mitchells could take control of the company, but they couldn't replicate our most valuable intellectual property without my cooperation. I also reached out to Ellen Martinez, the bookstore owner who had been our first client. She connected me with several small business associations that used SecureFlow's services. Their feedback was unanimous. They had chosen SecureFlow specifically because of our commitment to small business security. Many were already concerned about the recent changes in our service model. The pieces were falling into place, but I needed one more ally. I called Catherine, James's sister, who had always seemed more independent from Barbara's influence. Over coffee at a quiet cafe in Ballard, I shared my concerns. "They're not just taking my company," I explained. "They're destroying everything it stands for." Catherine listened intently, then shared something revealing. "Barbara did the same thing to Dad's first business partner," she said. "She has a pattern of pushing out anyone she sees as a threat to family control." Her words confirmed what I had suspected. This was about power, not business strategy. Armed with this knowledge, I spent the night before Easter preparing. I backed up all essential company documents, secured copies of my original patents, and drafted emails to key clients and employees. I also prepared a counterproposal, one that would protect SecureFlow's original mission while offering the Mitchells a fair return on their investment. Easter morning dawned bright and clear. I dressed carefully, choosing a suit I had worn during SecureFlow's early investor pitches, a reminder of the strength I had possessed before the Mitchells began undermining my confidence. As I drove to their estate, I felt neither fear nor doubt. I was ready for whatever would happen. The Mitchell estate was decorated elaborately for Easter, with fresh flowers and pastel decorations everywhere. Family members and business associates mingled in the grand living room, sipping champagne and making small talk. Barbara held court near the fireplace while James worked the room, speaking quietly to key board members. I noticed several unfamiliar faces, lawyers I assumed based on their demeanor and the briefcases at their feet. Barbara had planned this carefully, staging a public display of power. She wanted witnesses to my capitulation. What she didn't know was that I had done some planning of my own. As I walked into that room, I felt a profound shift within myself. The months of self-doubt and uncertainty fell away. I was no longer the intimidated daughter-in-law or the overwhelmed CEO. I was Sarah Mitchell, the woman who had built SecureFlow from nothing, who had protected countless small businesses, who had earned every bit of her success. The Easter lunch began with artificial pleasantries. Barbara had arranged the seating strategically. I was placed between two senior Mitchell Investments executives, while James sat across from me, flanked by their corporate lawyers. The table was immaculately set with the finest china and crystal, a display of wealth and power that seemed designed to intimidate. "Sarah, darling," Barbara called from the head of the table, her voice carrying over the polite conversation. "You look tired. Have you been sleeping well?" The concern in her voice was fabricated, but the message was clear. She wanted everyone to see me as fragile and unstable. Several guests exchanged knowing looks, and I realized this performance had been carefully orchestrated. The first course had barely been served when Barbara made her move. "Since we're all gathered here as family," she announced, setting down her soup spoon with deliberate precision, "I think it's time we discussed SecureFlow's exciting new direction." She nodded to one of the lawyers who began distributing copies of the restructuring documents I'd already seen. "As you can see," Barbara continued, her voice smooth as silk, "we've developed a comprehensive plan to take SecureFlow to the next level. Sarah's little project has shown remarkable potential, but it's time for more experienced hands to guide its growth." The condescension in her voice when she said, "little project," made several guests wince. James cleared his throat. "Right. On cue. The board has already expressed preliminary approval," he added, not meeting my eyes. "We just need to finalize some signatures today, and we can begin the transition immediately." The casual way he discussed dismantling my life's work made my blood boil, but I maintained my composure. Barbara stood, raising her wine glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," she declared. "To Sarah, who had the vision to start SecureFlow, and to its bright future under Mitchell family guidance." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to me. This was the moment they had planned, my public surrender. Instead of raising my glass, I calmly opened my laptop. "Before we toast," I said, my voice steady, "I'd like to share some information about SecureFlow's current situation." I connected to the dining room's projector, installed for Barbara's frequent business entertaining, and displayed a series of graphs and charts. "These numbers show SecureFlow's growth under our original business model," I began. "Our focus on small business security has resulted in a 300% revenue increase over the past 2 years. Our customer retention rate is 95%, and our technology has prevented over 10,000 cyber attacks on family-owned businesses." Barbara's smile froze. "Sarah, dear, this isn't the time for a technical presentation." "Actually, Barbara," I interrupted, my voice firm, "this is exactly the time." I switched to the next slide, showing the company's patent documentation. SecureFlow's core technology is protected by patents registered solely in my name. These patents are not transferable without my explicit consent. The lawyers exchanged concerned glances. This clearly hadn't been in their briefing. I continued, switching to customer testimonials. I've spoken with our major clients. They chose SecureFlow specifically because of our commitment to small business protection. Many have expressed concerns about the recent changes in our service model. James started to stand, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. I clicked to the final slide, a letter of intent from a major tech ethics foundation expressing interest in partnering with SecureFlow to expand our small business security program. This arrived yesterday. They're offering substantial funding to help us maintain our original mission. The room was dead silent. Barbara's face had turned an interesting shade of red, while James looked like he'd been struck. I closed my laptop and finally picked up my wine glass. So yes, let's toast to SecureFlow's future. But not the future you've planned, Barbara. I won't be signing over my company today or any other day. Barbara's composure cracked. How dare you? She hissed, dropping all pretense of civility. After everything we've done for you, this company would be nothing without the Mitchell name behind it. No, Barbara, I replied calmly. The Mitchell name has been riding on SecureFlow's success, not the other way around. Your recent investments represent less than 20% of our capital structure, and they came after we were already profitable. I turned to address the room. I founded SecureFlow to protect small businesses like my parents' hardware store. That mission isn't negotiable. If Mitchell Investments wants to remain involved, it will be on terms that respect this mission and my leadership. The silence that followed was deafening. The carefully orchestrated power play had exploded in Barbara's face, and everyone knew it. Several guests suddenly became very interested in their salads, while the lawyers began quietly gathering their documents. Barbara's face contorted with rage as she slammed her hand on the antique dining table, causing the fine china to rattle. "You ungrateful little upstart!" she spat, abandoning all pretense of sophistication. "Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? We can destroy you in the Seattle tech community with one phone call." The other guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, witnessing the carefully crafted facade of Mitchell family dignity crumble. James remained frozen, looking between his mother and me as if watching a tennis match he never expected to see. Several board members began quietly excusing themselves from the table. "Actually, Barbara," I replied, maintaining my composure, "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Catherine told me about your history, about what you did to Richard Sr.'s first business partner." At the mention of this apparently secret family history, Barbara's face went pale. I wonder how many other entrepreneurs have faced similar pressure from you? I opened my briefcase and pulled out another document. This is a detailed account of every attempt you've made to undermine my leadership at SecureFlow over the past year. Every unauthorized meeting, every manipulated board, vote, every instance of interference with company operations. I placed it on the table, watching as one of the lawyers reflexively reached for it before Barbara slapped his hand away. "I've already sent copies to several trusted colleagues in the tech industry," I continued. "Not to mention documentation of how Mitchell Investments has been attempting to access SecureFlow's proprietary technology without proper authorization. I'm sure the SEC would find that particularly interesting." James finally found his voice. "Sarah, you're being irrational. Think about what you're doing to our family." His words hung in the air, heavy with unintended irony. Our family. As if I had ever truly been considered part of it. "No, James," I said, turning to face my husband. "I've never thought more clearly. You know what SecureFlow means to me. You knew it when you married me. Yet you stood by while your mother systematically tried to strip me of everything I built. That says more about our family than anything I'm doing today." Catherine, who had been quietly observing from the corner of the room, stepped forward. She's right, James. Mother, this has to stop. Your obsession with control is destroying everything it touches. The look of betrayal on Barbara's face at her daughter's intervention was almost theatrical. How dare you side with her? Barbara hissed at Catherine. After everything I've done to maintain this family's position. That's exactly the problem, Catherine interrupted. You're so focused on maintaining the Mitchell family's position that you've forgotten what made us successful in the first place. Supporting innovation, not crushing it. The Easter lunch had devolved into complete chaos. The remaining guests were trying to leave as discreetly as possible, while the lawyers huddled in the corner, whispering urgently among themselves. One of the board members, an elderly gentleman, who had known James's father for years, caught my eye and gave me a slight nod of approval before departing. I stood up from the table, gathering my materials. I'll be calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning, I announced. I'll present evidence of unauthorized interference in company operations and call for a vote to remove any board members who were improperly appointed. I suggest the Mitchell Investments representatives come prepared to discuss a fair separation agreement. Barbara, still standing at the head of the table, gripped her chair until her knuckles turned white. You'll regret this, she said, her voice trembling with rage. No one walks away from the Mitchells unscathed. That's where you're wrong, I replied, walking toward the door. I'm not walking away, I'm standing my ground. Secure Flow will continue to operate according to its founding principles. You're the ones who need to walk away, before this gets even more uncomfortable for everyone. As I reached the doorway, I turned back one last time. Oh, and James, I'll have my lawyers contact you about the divorce proceedings. I suggest you find somewhere else to stay for a while. The look of shock on his face almost made me feel sorry for him. Almost. The spring sunshine hit my face as I walked out of the Mitchell estate, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe freely. My phone was already buzzing with messages. News travels fast in Seattle's tech community. But I didn't care. I had faced down one of the city's most powerful families and reclaimed my company. Whatever came next, I knew I could handle it. The aftermath of the Easter lunch confrontation was immediate and intense. By the time I reached my car, my phone had exploded with notifications. News of the showdown at the Mitchell estate was already spreading through Seattle's tight-knit tech community. Several board members had sent their resignations, clearly seeing which way the wind was blowing. Others were frantically trying to distance themselves from Barbara's attempted takeover. I drove straight to Secure Flow's headquarters, knowing the next few hours would be crucial. Rachel Chen was waiting for me in the lobby, having monitored the company's systems throughout the lunch. Everything's secure, she reported as we walked to my office. I've locked down all critical servers and revoked access for any Mitchell-appointed executives, just as we planned. The office was eerily quiet for a Sunday, but a core group of loyal employees had come in when Rachel alerted them about the situation. These were the people who believed in Secure Flow's original mission, the ones who had stuck with me despite the Mitchells' attempts to push them out. They gathered in the conference room, faces showing a mix of concern and determination. I won't lie to you, I told them, standing at the head of the conference table. The next few weeks are going to be challenging. The Mitchells won't go quietly, and they have significant influence in this city. But we have something they don't. We have our integrity and our mission. We worked through the night, preparing for the inevitable counterattack. The legal team, led by a fierce corporate attorney I had quietly hired weeks earlier, drafted documents to challenge the validity of recent board appointments. Our tech team implemented security protocols to protect our systems from any potential sabotage. The communications department prepared statements for clients and the media. Around midnight, Catherine arrived at the office. Mother's on the warpath, she warned, looking exhausted. She's already called every major investor in Seattle, trying to freeze your funding sources. But she overplayed her hand. A lot of people are tired of her strong-arm tactics. The next morning, I walked into the emergency board meeting with my head held high. The boardroom, usually filled with Mitchell allies, was half empty. Those who remained looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. I laid out the evidence of interference in company operations, the unauthorized attempts to access proprietary technology, and the pattern of hostile behavior toward key employees. SecureFlow's mission is not negotiable, I declared, looking each board member in the eye. We will continue to protect small businesses from cyber threats. If that doesn't align with your investment goals, now is the time to discuss a fair exit strategy. The vote that followed was decisive. The remaining board members, perhaps seeing the writing on the wall, voted to remove all Mitchell-appointed executives and restore full operational control to me. By noon, Mitchell Investments' attempt to take over SecureFlow had officially failed. But the real battle was just beginning. Barbara, true to her threat, began a campaign to undermine SecureFlow in Seattle's business community. Potential clients received mysterious calls warning them about instability in our leadership. Rumors about financial problems started circulating among investors. Several major contracts, ones that had been negotiated through Mitchell connections, were suddenly canceled. I countered by going public with our story. In interviews with tech, blogs, and local business publications, I spoke candidly about the attempted hostile takeover and our commitment to protecting small businesses. The response was overwhelming. Small business owners across the country reached out to share similar stories of being pressured by larger corporations. Our client base actually grew as companies chose to work with us specifically because we had stood our ground. The personal cost was significant. James moved out of our house the day after Easter, leaving only a brief note about having his lawyer contact mine. Seattle's social circles, many influenced by the Mitchells, suddenly became less welcoming. Events I had once been invited to as a rising tech star now somehow forgot to send invitations. But for every door that closed, new ones opened. Other entrepreneurs, particularly women who had faced similar pressure from established business families, reached out to offer support and collaboration. The Tech Ethics Foundation that had expressed interest in partnering with us accelerated their timeline, providing both funding and moral support for our mission. 1 month after the Easter confrontation, I sat in my office reviewing our latest performance numbers. Despite the Mitchells' attempts to destabilize us, SecureFlow was stronger than ever. Our core team, freed from the constant interference, had developed innovative new security features. Client satisfaction scores had improved, and our small business focus was attracting positive attention from industry analysts. Rachel knocked on my door, grinning. "You need to see this," she said, handing me her tablet. On the screen was an article in a major tech publication titled "The Rise of Ethical Tech: How One CEO's Stand Against Corporate Bullying Changed Seattle's Startup" scene. The article detailed not just SecureFlow's story, but similar experiences from other entrepreneurs who had been pressured to compromise their principles. The article's publication marked a turning point, but it also brought a moment of clarity I hadn't expected. Late that evening, after most employees had gone home, I found myself standing at my office window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The same view that had once felt oppressive now filled me with a sense of possibility. In the reflection of the glass, I saw someone I hadn't seen in months, myself, unencumbered by doubt and pretense. My phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. "Mother's losing her grip. Just resigned from 3 major boards amid controversy over her business practices." I felt no satisfaction at Barbara's downfall, only a deep sense of relief that her ability to harm other entrepreneurs was diminishing. Catherine had become an unexpected ally, working quietly behind the scenes to repair some of the damage her family had caused. The next morning, I received a letter from my divorce attorney that brought everything into sharp focus. James was contesting our prenuptial agreement, claiming that his contributions to SecureFlow's growth invalidated its terms. Attached was a list of demands that read like a Mitchell family manifesto, shares in the company, seats on the board, ongoing involvement in strategic decisions. It was Barbara's influence, clear as day. Instead of anger, I felt an overwhelming sense of sadness for James. He had never developed an identity separate from his family's expectations. Our marriage had been genuine in its way, but it had also been built on an illusion. His illusion that I would eventually conform to the Mitchell mold, and my illusion that his support for my independence was unconditional. I called an all-hands meeting that afternoon. Standing before my team, I realized how much had changed. The forced smiles and nervous glances that had characterized recent months were gone, replaced by genuine engagement and energy. SecureFlow is at a crossroads, I began. The easy path would be to compromise, to become just another corporate security provider. But that's not who we are. I unveiled our new initiative, the Small Business Digital Protection Program. We would partner with local chambers of commerce across the country to provide affordable, accessible cybersecurity solutions to family-owned businesses. The program would include education, support, and scaled pricing to ensure that even the smallest enterprises could afford protection. This is why we fought, I told my team. Not just to maintain control of our company, but to stay true to our mission. Every small business we protect is someone's dream, someone's life work. That's worth fighting for. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Developers volunteered to work extra hours to build new features specifically for small businesses. Our sales team began reaching out to their old contacts in the small business community. Even some of our newer employees hired during the Mitchell era caught the spirit of our original mission. One junior developer raised his hand during the meeting. "My parents run a food truck," he said. "They've been worried about digital payment, security, but couldn't afford the big corporate solutions. This is exactly what they need." His personal connection to our mission reminded me of why I had started SecureFlow in the first place. That evening, I finally did something I had been postponing. I called my parents. They had been worried, sick about me during the whole ordeal, but I had maintained a brave face, not wanting them to know how close I had come to losing everything. Now, I told them the whole story. "We never liked him much anyway," my father said, trying to lighten the mood. "Too polished, like one of those fancy tools people buy but never actually use." My mother was more reflective. "You know what this reminds me of? That time in high school when the chain stores were trying to put us out of business. Remember how the community rallied around us? Sometimes standing your ground isn't just about you. It's about everyone who might face the same fight." Their words struck a chord. The fight with the Mitchells hadn't just been about maintaining control of SecureFlow. It had been about protecting the very principle that drove our business: the right of small enterprises to compete and thrive in an increasingly corporate world. In the weeks that followed, we began implementing the Small Business Digital Protection Program. Each success story, a family restaurant securing its customer data, a local bookstore protecting its online sales system, a food truck safely processing digital payments, felt like a vindication of our stand against the Mitchells' corporate vision. The first steps toward rebuilding SecureFlow were both exhilarating and terrifying. With the Mitchell influence removed, we had to re-establish our identity quickly. I started by rehiring key employees who had been pushed out during the attempted takeover. Each return felt like recovering a piece of SecureFlow's soul. Rachel Chen took back her position as head of development, bringing with her the innovative spirit that had characterized our early days. One morning, as I walked through the office, I overheard a conversation that stopped me in my tracks. Two new developers were discussing our small business security protocols with Rachel. "It's amazing," one said, "how we can make enterprise-level security accessible to mom-and-pop shops." The other chimed in. "My aunt just implemented our system in her flower shop. She said it's the first time she's felt secure about taking online orders." This was the culture I had dreamed of. People who understood and believed in our mission. The legal battles with the Mitchells continued to simmer in the background. Their lawyers filed motion after motion, each attempting to claim some piece of SecureFlow's success as James's contribution. But we had prepared well. Every document, every line of code, every business decision had been meticulously documented. Our legal team, led by Patricia Wong, a brilliant corporate attorney who had faced similar battles herself, methodically dismantled each claim. "They're getting desperate," Patricia told me during one of our strategy sessions. "The more they push, the more they expose their own unethical practices." She slid a document across the table, evidence that Barbara had attempted to access SecureFlow's proprietary code through a shell company. "This could be our nuclear option if they don't back off." The tech community's response to our story continued to evolve. What had started as gossip about a family feud transformed into a larger conversation about corporate ethics and the preservation of innovation in the face of consolidation. I began receiving invitations to speak at conferences, not about cybersecurity, but about maintaining company values under pressure. During one such conference in Portland, a young woman approached me after my keynote speech. "I'm facing a similar situation," she confided. "My medical tech startup is being pressured to sell to a larger corporation that wants to triple our prices." We talked for hours, and by the end, I had not only helped her develop a strategy to maintain control, but had gained a new perspective on SecureFlow's future role in the tech ecosystem. This interaction sparked an idea. We created the Innovation Protection Initiative, a program within SecureFlow that provided resources and mentoring to other startups facing pressure from larger corporations. It wasn't just about cybersecurity anymore. It was about protecting the very spirit of entrepreneurship that had driven me to start SecureFlow in the first place. The personal toll of these changes was significant. Seattle's social circles, heavily influenced by old money families like the Mitchells, became increasingly uncomfortable. Former friends chose sides, usually aligning with the more powerful faction. Invitations to charity galas and social events dried up. But in their place came more meaningful connections. Other entrepreneurs, tech innovators, and small business owners who valued integrity over influence. Catherine remained my strongest ally within the Mitchell family. Over lunch at a quiet cafe in Capitol Hill, she shared more about the family's history of similar takeover attempts. "You're not the first," she explained, "but you might be the first to successfully fight back. That's why Mother's so vindictive. You've challenged her whole worldview." The divorce proceedings dragged on, becoming increasingly bitter as James, clearly influenced by his mother, made ever more outrageous claims about his role in SecureFlow's success. During one particularly heated deposition, he claimed to have been the strategic mastermind behind our core security algorithms I had developed years before meeting him. But the most surprising support came from an unexpected quarter. Richard Sr., James's father, requested a private meeting. In his office overlooking Puget Sound, he seemed older and more tired than I remembered. "Barbara's actions. They're not what I built this family's reputation on," he said quietly. "We were supposed to help businesses grow, not consume them." His tacit support, while not public, helped ease some of the pressure from other business quarters. Building a new foundation for SecureFlow meant more than just recovering from the Mitchell family's influence. It required completely reimagining our future. The first major step came when I decided to move our headquarters from the prestigious downtown office space the Mitchells had insisted on to a more practical location in South Lake Union. The new space, a renovated warehouse, better reflected our company's values and freed up capital for our small business initiatives. The move became a symbolic fresh start. As we unpacked boxes and set up workstations, there was an energy in the air that reminded me of SecureFlow's early days. Rachel organized teams to paint meeting rooms in bright colors, each named after a small business we had helped protect. The break room became Ellen's Books, in honor of our first client, while our main conference room was christened Hardware Haven, as a tribute to my parents' store. One morning, as I walked through the new office, I found our development team huddled around a computer, excitedly discussing something. They had created a new security feature specifically designed for mobile food vendors, a complete point-of-sale protection system that could work reliably even with intermittent internet connections. The solution had come from a junior developer whose sister ran a food truck and had explained her security concerns. This organic innovation, driven by real understanding of small business needs, was exactly what I had always envisioned for SecureFlow. We implemented a new policy. Every employee would spend one day each month working alongside one of our small business clients, understanding their challenges firsthand. The insights gained from these experiences were invaluable. The contrast with the Mitchell era became stark. Instead of lengthy board meetings discussing market capitalizations and corporate acquisitions, we focused on practical solutions for real problems. Our weekly all-hands meetings now featured success stories from small businesses using our systems. Each story reinforced our mission and boosted team morale. Our financial structure changed too. I implemented an employee stock ownership program, ensuring that everyone who contributed to SecureFlow's success would share in its rewards. This decision, which would have been unthinkable under Mitchell control, created a sense of ownership and commitment throughout the company. The legal battles with the Mitchells finally reached a turning point. During a crucial hearing, their lawyers presented what they claimed was evidence of James's crucial contributions to SecureFlow's development. Our legal team systematically dismantled their claims, presenting dated documentation, original code repositories, and testimony from early employees that proved the company's success predated any Mitchell involvement. The judge's ruling was unequivocal. Not only did she dismiss James's claims to SecureFlow's intellectual property, but she also issued a stern warning about the Mitchell family's attempts to interfere with company operations. The victory was sweet, but the real satisfaction came from knowing we could now focus entirely on our mission without looking over our shoulders. Our small business digital protection program expanded rapidly. We partnered with local chambers of commerce across the Pacific Northwest, offering workshops and affordable security solutions. The program's success attracted attention from unexpected quarters. Several large tech companies, impressed by our innovative approach, reached out to discuss collaboration opportunities. But the most significant change was in our company culture. The fear and uncertainty that had characterized the Mitchell era was replaced by enthusiasm and creativity. Employees felt free to propose new ideas, knowing they would be evaluated on merit rather than politics. The diversity of our team increased naturally as we hired based on talent and passion rather than connections. One particular project exemplified this new direction. A team of developers, inspired by their experiences with small business owners, created a simplified security dashboard that could be understood and managed by people with minimal technical knowledge. When we unveiled it at a small business convention, the response was overwhelming. "Finally, something we can actually use," one shop owner exclaimed, tears in her eyes. The personal transformation paralleled the professional one. Free from the constant pressure to conform to Mitchell family expectations, I rediscovered my passion for hands-on problem-solving. I started coding again, spending late nights working alongside our development team on particularly challenging security issues. It felt like coming home to myself. Building a new foundation for SecureFlow meant more than just recovering from the Mitchell family's influence. It required completely reimagining our future. The first major step came when I decided to move our headquarters from the prestigious downtown office space the Mitchells had insisted on to a more practical location in South Lake Union. The new space, a renovated warehouse, better reflected our company's values and freed up capital for our small business initiatives. The move became a symbolic fresh start. As we unpacked boxes and set up workstations, there was an energy in the air that reminded me of SecureFlow's early days. Rachel organized teams to paint meeting rooms in bright colors, each named after a small business we had helped protect. The break room became Ellen's Books in honor of our first client, while our main conference room was christened Hardware Haven as a tribute to my parents' store. One morning, as I walked through the new office, I found our development team, huddled around a computer, excitedly discussing something. They had created a new security feature specifically designed for mobile food vendors, a complete point-of-sale protection system that could work reliably even with intermittent internet connections. The solution had come from a junior developer whose sister ran a food truck and had explained her security concerns. This organic innovation, driven by real understanding of small business needs, was exactly what I had always envisioned for SecureFlow. We implemented a new policy. Every employee would spend 1 day each month working alongside one of our small business clients, understanding their challenges firsthand. The insights gained from these experiences were invaluable. The contrast with the Mitchell era became stark. Instead of lengthy board meetings discussing market capitalizations and corporate acquisitions, we focused on practical solutions for real problems. Our weekly all-hands meetings now featured success stories from small businesses using our systems. Each story reinforced our mission and boosted team morale. Our financial structure changed too. I implemented an employee stock ownership program, ensuring that everyone who contributed to SecureFlow's success would share in its rewards. This decision, which would have been unthinkable under Mitchell control, created a sense of ownership and commitment throughout the company. The legal battles with the Mitchells finally reached a turning point. During a crucial hearing, their lawyers presented what they claimed was evidence of James's crucial contributions to SecureFlow's development. Our legal team systematically dismantled their claims, presenting dated documentation, original code repositories, and testimony from early employees that proved the company's success predated any Mitchell involvement. The judge's ruling was unequivocal. Not only did she dismiss James's claims to SecureFlow's intellectual property, but she also issued a stern warning about the Mitchell family's attempts to interfere with company operations. The victory was sweet, but the real satisfaction came from knowing we could now focus entirely on our mission without looking over our shoulders. Our small business digital protection program expanded rapidly. We partnered with local chambers of commerce across the Pacific Northwest, offering workshops and affordable security solutions. The program's success attracted attention from unexpected quarters. Several large tech companies, impressed by our innovative approach, reached out to discuss collaboration opportunities. But the most significant change was in our company culture. The fear and uncertainty that had characterized the Mitchell era was replaced by enthusiasm and creativity. Employees felt free to propose new ideas, knowing they would be evaluated on merit rather than politics. The diversity of our team increased naturally as we hired based on talent and passion rather than connections. One particular project exemplified this new direction. A team of developers, inspired by their experiences with small business owners, created a simplified security dashboard that could be understood and managed by people with minimal technical knowledge. When we unveiled it at a small business convention, the response was overwhelming. "Finally, something we can actually use," one shop owner exclaimed, tears in her eyes. The personal transformation paralleled the professional one. Free from the constant pressure to conform to Mitchell family expectations, I rediscovered my passion for hands-on problem-solving. I started coding again, spending late nights working alongside our development team on particularly challenging security issues. It felt like coming home to myself. The first real victory after breaking free from the Mitchells came unexpectedly. On a rainy Tuesday morning, I received a call from the governor's office. They were launching a statewide initiative to protect small businesses from cyber threats, and they wanted SecureFlow to be the primary security provider. The contract would mean protecting thousands of local businesses across Washington state. This was exactly the kind of opportunity I had dreamed of, a chance to make a real difference at scale. The old Mitchell-controlled SecureFlow would have seen this merely as a revenue opportunity, but we approached it differently. I assembled a special team, including several employees who had family businesses back home, to design a comprehensive protection program. During our pitch meeting at the state capitol, I noticed something remarkable. My team wasn't just presenting features and statistics. They were telling stories. Mark from accounting talked about how his parents' restaurant had nearly shut down after a cyber attack. Sarah from customer support shared how her grandmother's craft shop now felt secure accepting online orders. These personal connections resonated with the state officials in a way that corporate presentations never could. The day we won the contract, I organized an impromptu celebration in our new office. As I looked around at my team, some who had been with me since the beginning, others who had joined after the Mitchell exodus, I saw the same passion for helping small businesses that had inspired me to start SecureFlow in the first place. Someone had ordered pizza from the local family-owned pizzeria we'd recently helped secure their online ordering system, a small but meaningful reminder of our mission. But success brought new challenges. As word of our state contract spread, larger cybersecurity companies began taking notice. Several attempted to poach our key employees with promises of higher salaries and stock options. Others tried to undercut our prices in the small business market. One particularly aggressive competitor even attempted to spread rumors about our stability, suggesting that the Mitchell family's departure had left us vulnerable. Instead of panicking, we turned these challenges into opportunities. When competitors tried to poach our talent, we responded by implementing an innovative profit-sharing model that gave employees a direct stake in our success. When they undercut our prices, we enhanced our service offerings, proving that value meant more than just cost. The rumors about our stability were countered by transparent financial reporting and glowing testimonials from our growing client base. One morning, I found an email in my inbox that made me pause. It was from a small business owner in Spokane who had recently implemented our security system. Her family-owned bookstore had been targeted by ransomware, but our protection had prevented any damage. "You saved not just our business," she wrote, "but 3 generations of our family's dreams." I printed that email and hung it in our main conference room as a reminder of why we fought so hard to maintain our independence. Our success began attracting attention from unexpected quarters. Tech magazines that had previously focused on larger corporations started featuring stories about SecureFlow's innovative approach to small business security. Industry analysts who had dismissed us during the Mitchell era now praised our community-focused business model as the future of cybersecurity. The most satisfying moment came when we launched our Small Business Security Scholarship Program. For every 10 paying clients, we would provide free security services to one struggling small business that couldn't afford protection. The idea had come from our team during a brainstorming session, and it perfectly embodied our company's values. Rachel Chen, who had stood by me through the darkest days of the Mitchell crisis, led the scholarship program. She personally reviewed applications, often staying late to video chat with business owners across different time zones. "Every story reminds me of why we fought so hard," she told me one evening, her desk covered with applications. "These aren't just businesses we're protecting, they're families, dreams, legacies." The program's first recipient was a family-owned pharmacy in a small town outside Seattle. They had been hit hard by competition from large chain stores and couldn't afford to upgrade their security systems. When we installed our protection suite and trained their staff, the owner's daughter, a third-generation pharmacist, hugged me with tears in her eyes. "Now we can finally start our online prescription service without worrying," she said. The real test of my resolve came 6 months after the Easter confrontation. I received a carefully worded email from Mitchell Investments' new CEO. They had apparently pushed Barbara into early retirement following several controversial board decisions. The email proposed a reconciliation meeting to discuss potential future collaboration. They offered to buy a minority stake in SecureFlow at an extremely generous valuation. The old Sarah might have seen this as a validation, a chance to prove that I could work with the Mitchells on equal terms. But as I sat in my office, looking at the framed email from the Spokane bookstore owner, I understood that this was another kind of test. The Mitchell name still carried significant weight in Seattle's business community, and their offer would have solved many of our immediate expansion challenges. I called an emergency meeting with my leadership team, not to seek their approval, but to demonstrate the transparency that had become our hallmark. Rachel was the first to speak up. "They'll say it's just a minority stake now, but we know how this story ends," she said, her voice firm. Others nodded in agreement, sharing stories of how our independence had allowed us to better serve our clients. My response to Mitchell Investments was brief but clear. SecureFlow's mission and independence are not negotiable. We're not interested in any level of investment that could compromise our commitment to small business security. I copied Barbara. On the email, knowing she would understand the message, we weren't just rejecting their money, we were rejecting their entire approach to business. The aftermath of this decision brought unexpected allies. Several venture capital firms, impressed by our stance, reached out with no-strings-attached investment offers. More importantly, our existing clients rallied around us. The small business community, hearing about our rejection of Mitchell money, began actively promoting SecureFlow through their networks. During this period, I received another kind of test, a lunch invitation from James. He had apparently started his own venture capital firm, separate from his family's business. "I've learned from my mistakes," he wrote. "I want to make amends." The invitation stirred up complicated emotions. Part of me wanted to believe he had changed, that he had found his own path away from his mother's influence. I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a small cafe far from both our usual haunts. James looked different, somehow less polished than I remembered. He spoke about his new venture, his realizations about his mother's controlling nature, his regret over not supporting me. For a moment, I almost believed him. Then he mentioned his new firm's interest in companies like SecureFlow. The familiar gleam appeared in his eyes as he talked about market expansion and corporate partnerships. It was the same old Mitchell playbook, just with a different cover. I finished my coffee, declined his investment offer, and left, feeling strangely light. The last tie to my old life had been severed. That evening, I called a company-wide meeting. Standing before my team, I shared the story of both offers and our rejection of them. SecureFlow's strength isn't in our market value or our growth potential, I told them. It's in our commitment to protecting small businesses, in our understanding that security isn't just about technology, it's about preserving people's dreams. The response was overwhelming. Employees shared their own stories of why they chose to stay with SecureFlow despite attractive offers from larger companies. One developer had turned down a position at a major tech firm with double the salary. "Money's good," he said, "but knowing we're making a real difference is better." This recommitment to our mission led to a new initiative, the SecureFlow Community Alliance. We began partnering with small business associations across the country, offering not just security solutions but also training and support. Our team created online resources, hosted workshops, and built a network of small business owners who could share experiences and advice. The contrast between this approach and the Mitchell's corporate vision couldn't have been starker. While they had pushed for higher prices and corporate clients, we were making our services more accessible and community-focused. Our revenue might have grown more slowly than it would have under Mitchell leadership, but our impact was far greater. Standing my ground against the Mitchells' repeated attempts to regain control had strengthened me, but it had also taught me valuable lessons about the nature of power and influence. During a particularly busy week, as I reviewed our latest client success stories, I received an unexpected message from Barbara's former assistant, Angela. "You need to know something," her message read. "Barbara's planning one last attempt to discredit SecureFlow. She's hired people to find vulnerabilities in your system." The warning didn't surprise me. Barbara's persistence was legendary in Seattle business circles. But it confirmed that our decision to maintain independence had been right. Instead of panicking, we turned this threat into an opportunity. I gathered our security team and shared Angela's warning. "Let's show them what real security looks like," I said. We launched a comprehensive security audit of our entire system, involving not just our internal team, but also inviting ethical hackers from the cybersecurity community to test our defenses. The process was intense. For 2 weeks, our office became a fortress of focused energy. Developers worked around the clock, strengthening our protocols and patching potential vulnerabilities. What emerged wasn't just a more secure system. It was a new approach to small business cybersecurity that would become our signature innovation. During this security overhaul, we discovered something interesting. The attempts to breach our system weren't just coming from the direction we expected. Several sophisticated probing attacks had originated from companies connected to Mitchell Investments' portfolio. We documented everything, building a detailed case that our lawyers could use if needed. Rachel, who had been monitoring the attack patterns, made an astute observation. "They're not just trying to find weaknesses in our security," she said during a late-night strategy session. "They're trying to understand how we protect small businesses so effectively. They can't replicate our success because they don't understand our fundamental approach." This realization led to a breakthrough. We decided to make portions of our security methodology open source, sharing our basic framework with the cybersecurity community while maintaining the proprietary elements that made our solution unique. This transparency served 2 purposes. It helped other security providers better protect small businesses, and it demonstrated that our success wasn't based on secret algorithms, but on our deep understanding of small business needs. The Mitchell Connected company's attempts to undermine us backfired spectacularly. Our open-source initiative earned us widespread respect in the tech community. Small business associations across the country began endorsing SecureFlow, not just for our security solutions, but for our commitment to transparency and community support. During this period, I received a call from Richard Seniors, James's father. He wanted to meet privately, away from Barbara's influence. Over coffee at a small diner outside the city, he shared something surprising. "Barbara's actions have torn this family apart," he said wearily. "Catherine barely speaks to her mother anymore, and James. Well, James is finally beginning to question everything he was taught about business." Richard's words made me reflect on the true cost of Barbara's ruthless approach to business. The Mitchell family's wealth and influence had come at the price of genuine relationships and ethical integrity. In trying to maintain control, Barbara had lost what mattered most, the trust and respect of her own family. This conversation strengthened my resolve to build a different kind of company culture at SecureFlow. We implemented a family-first policy, ensuring that our employees could balance work with their personal lives. We encouraged team members to bring their whole selves to work, including their connections to small businesses and their communities. The results were remarkable. Employee satisfaction soared, and our retention rate became one of the highest in Seattle's tech sector. More importantly, our team's personal connections to small businesses continued to drive innovation in ways that our competitors couldn't match. As if to validate our approach, we received an unexpected honor. The Small Business Administration selected SecureFlow for their annual Innovation in Business Protection Award. The ceremony would be held in Washington, D.C., and several of our small business clients would be there to share their success stories. The personal transformation I experienced during this period was profound. Where I had once measured success by the approval of others, particularly the Mitchells, I now found validation in the real-world impact of our work. This shift became crystal clear during my keynote speech at the Small Business Administration Awards ceremony in Washington, D.C. Standing at the podium, looking out at an audience filled with small business owners and entrepreneurs, I shared not just SecureFlow's story, but the larger message it represented. True security isn't just about protecting data I told them. It's about protecting dreams, protecting legacies, protecting the very foundation of our communities. In the audience, I spotted Ellen Martinez, our first client, who had flown in specially for the ceremony. Her bookstore had grown from a single location to 3 stores across Seattle, all protected by SecureFlow's systems. Next to her sat other business owners whose stories had become intertwined with ours. The food truck owner who helped us develop our mobile security solution, the family pharmacist who was our first scholarship recipient, and dozens more. After the ceremony, during the reception, I found myself surrounded by entrepreneurs sharing their stories of resistance against corporate pressure. A woman who owned a chain of local coffee shops had fought off numerous takeover attempts. Third-generation hardware store owner had maintained independence despite aggressive competition from national chains. Each story reinforced that our fight against the Mitchells had been about something much larger than one company's control. The next morning, I received an email that brought everything full circle. A young software developer named Maya wrote about how SecureFlow's story had inspired her to reject a buyout offer from a large tech corporation. Your stand against the Mitchells showed me that it's possible to succeed without compromising your values, she wrote. I'm keeping control of my company, and we're focusing on helping local artists protect their digital content. This email sparked an idea. When I returned to Seattle, I launched the SecureFlow Mentorship Program, connecting experienced entrepreneurs who had maintained their independence with younger business owners facing similar pressures. The program quickly grew beyond our initial focus on cybersecurity, becoming a support network for maintaining business integrity in the face of corporate pressure. The contrast between this new initiative and Barbara's approach to business mentorship was stark. Where she had used mentorship as a tool for control and influence, we created a collaborative network of mutual support. The program's success attracted attention from business schools, leading to partnerships with several universities interested in studying ethical entrepreneurship. During this period, I received unexpected news about the Mitchell family. Catherine had officially resigned from Mitchell Investments to start her own venture capital firm focused on supporting women-led technology companies. Her first public statement included a thinly veiled criticism of traditional corporate takeover practices. Barbara's response was predictable. She attempted to freeze Catherine's access to family resources, just as she had tried to do to me. Catherine and I met for coffee shortly after her announcement. The dynamic between us had shifted completely. We were no longer in-law and family member, but 2 women who understood the cost and value of standing up for their principles. You showed me it was possible, she said. Watching you defend SecureFlow made me realize I didn't have to accept Mother's version of success. The ripple effects of our stand against the Mitchells continued to spread through Seattle's business community. Other family-owned businesses began openly resisting pressure to sell to larger corporations. A group of local tech startups formed an alliance committed to maintaining their independence and ethical principles. SecureFlow's story had become a catalyst for a larger movement toward business integrity. This period of growth and influence brought new challenges, but they were different from the ones we'd faced under Mitchell pressure. Instead of fighting to maintain control, we were working to scale our impact while staying true to our mission. Each decision was measured not by its effect on our bottom line, but by its alignment with our commitment to protecting small businesses. With our newfound strength and stability came unexpected opportunities to make a broader impact. One morning, I arrived at the office to find Rachel excitedly waving a report. She and her team had discovered a pattern in recent cyber attacks targeting small businesses across the country. They weren't random incidents, but part of a coordinated effort to force small businesses to purchase overpriced security services from larger corporations. This discovery ignited a fire in all of us. We had faced similar tactics from the Mitchells, and now we had a chance to prevent others from experiencing the same pressure. I called an emergency meeting of our leadership team, and within hours, we had outlined what would become our most ambitious initiative yet: the Small Business Protection Alliance. The alliance would bring together independent security firms, small business associations, and tech advocacy groups to combat predatory practices in the cybersecurity industry. We offered our research, resources, and expertise, but deliberately chose not to lead the alliance. This wasn't about SecureFlow's prominence, but about creating a sustainable support network for small businesses. During the alliance's first meeting, held in our Southlake Union office, I noticed something remarkable. Representatives from companies that had once competed fiercely were now collaborating on solutions. A woman who ran a small security firm in Portland shared how she'd resisted acquisition attempts from larger corporations. "They told me I couldn't survive independently," she said, "but SecureFlow proved them wrong." The alliance's first major victory came when we exposed a scheme by a large security conglomerate to artificially inflate the cost of basic security services. Our collective research and documentation led to a federal investigation and eventual reform of industry pricing practices. The Mitchell family's name appeared in several internal documents we uncovered, though Barbara had been careful to maintain plausible deniability. This success attracted attention from unexpected quarters. Several state attorneys general reached out for consultation on protecting small businesses from predatory security practices. I found myself testifying before state legislatures, sharing not just SecureFlow's story, but the broader pattern of corporate pressure on independent businesses. During one such testimony, I spotted James in the audience. He had lost the polished look I remembered, appearing more thoughtful and subdued. Later, I learned he had started working with small business advocacy groups, perhaps trying to redeem himself from his role in his mother's schemes. While I couldn't forget the past, I felt a quiet satisfaction in seeing this change. The alliance's work led to a fundamental shift in how we approached security at SecureFlow. Beyond just protecting individual businesses, we began developing tools and protocols for community-wide security networks. Small businesses in the same neighborhood could share threat intelligence and resources, creating a collective defense system that was both more effective and more affordable than traditional corporate solutions. Our development team, inspired by this community approach, created what we called the Digital Neighborhood Watch, a collaborative security platform that allowed small businesses to protect each other while maintaining their independence. The system was a perfect embodiment of everything we had learned through our struggles with the Mitchells. Strength comes not from size or control, but from cooperation and shared values. During the platform's beta testing, we worked with a group of family-owned businesses in Seattle's International District. Watching these diverse businesses, from traditional herbal medicine shops to modern fusion restaurants, work together to protect their digital assets was incredibly moving. They understood something the Mitchells never had. True security comes from community, not control. The success of these initiatives brought validation in an unexpected form. Several business schools began using SecureFlow as a case study in ethical business practices and community-based security solutions. I was invited to give guest lectures, sharing not just our technical innovations, but the philosophical principles that drove our success. The major breakthrough came during a routine security audit of our systems. Our team discovered a unique pattern in how small businesses were being targeted by cybercriminals. Instead of random attacks, there was a systematic approach focusing on businesses during their most vulnerable periods, typically during digital transitions or expansions. This insight led to our most innovative solution yet: predictive security protocols. I gathered our core development team for an intensive 2-week sprint. We worked around the clock, fueled by excitement and purpose, developing an AI-powered system that could anticipate potential security threats based on a business's growth patterns and operational changes. What made this system revolutionary wasn't just its technical sophistication, but its accessibility to small business owners. During the final testing phase, we invited 20 small businesses to pilot the system. Among them was a family-owned bakery that was expanding into online orders The owner, Maria Santos, had been hesitant to digitize her business due to security concerns. "My grandmother's recipes are our most valuable asset," she explained. "I can't risk losing them to hackers." Our predictive system not only protected Maria's digital assets, but also guided her through each step of her business's digital transformation. When she successfully launched her online ordering platform without a single security incident, the joy in her voice during our follow-up call reminded me exactly why we had fought so hard to maintain SecureFlow's independence. The success of I. The pilot program attracted attention from unexpected places. Several major tech publications ran features on our innovative approach. But the most surprising response came from Barbara Mitchell herself. She sent a formal letter to SecureFlow's board, acknowledging that her previous assessment of our business model had been short-sighted. The letter didn't include an apology. Barbara would never go that far. But its admission of error spoke volumes. More importantly, it signaled to Seattle's business community that the war was truly over. The Mitchell family's campaign to control SecureFlow had failed not just practically, but philosophically. This vindication came with a new set of challenges. As our reputation grew, larger corporations began mimicking our community-based approach to security. But they missed the essential element that made our system work: the genuine commitment to small business success. Their corporate versions felt hollow, lacking the personal understanding that came from our deep connections with the small business community. During this period, I received an invitation to speak at a major tech conference in San Francisco. My keynote would follow presentations from CEOs of some of the world's largest tech companies. As I prepared my speech, I reflected on how different my message would be from theirs. While they would talk about market capitalization and corporate acquisitions, I would speak about protecting family businesses and preserving community values. The morning of the conference, I walked onto the stage carrying a simple leather notebook, the same one I had used to sketch out SecureFlow's first security protocols in my parents' hardware store. My speech didn't focus on technical specifications or market strategies. Instead, I shared stories. The bookstore owner who could sleep at night knowing her customer data was safe, the food truck vendor who could confidently process digital payments, the family pharmacist who could offer online services to elderly customers. Security isn't just about protecting data, I told the audience. It's about protecting dreams. Every small business represents someone's lifelong ambition, their family's legacy, their community's heartbeat. That's what we fight to protect. At SecureFlow, the response was overwhelming. After the speech, dozens of tech entrepreneurs approached me, not to discuss investment opportunities or partnerships, but to share their own stories of resisting corporate pressure and maintaining their independence. Many had followed SecureFlow's battle with the Mitchells and found inspiration in our stand. The full circle moment came when I received an invitation to speak at my old high school in Twin Falls. Standing in the auditorium where I had once dreamed of a future in technology, I faced a room full of students, many from families running small businesses just like mine had. The experience was both humbling and inspiring. Before my speech, I visited my parents' old hardware store, now run by a young couple who had modernized it while maintaining its community-focused character. They were using SecureFlow's security systems, though they didn't know their visitor was the company's founder. Watching them help customers with the same care and attention my parents had shown made me realize how far we'd come from the days when the Mitchells tried to turn SecureFlow into just another corporate entity. During the visit, I learned that the store owners had recently fought off a buyout attempt from a national chain. They'd used resources from our Small Business Protection Alliance to maintain their independence. "We believe local businesses are the heart of this community," the wife told me, unaware of how deeply her words resonated with my own journey. Back in Seattle, I found our office buzzing with excitement over a new initiative. Our team had developed a program to help small businesses transition between generations. a critical period when many family enterprises become vulnerable to corporate takeovers. The project had personal meaning for many of our employees who had watched their own family businesses struggle with succession planning. Rachel had spearheaded this project, drawing on her experience helping her parents protect their restaurant's digital assets. Every family business has its own story, she explained during the project presentation. Our job isn't just to provide security, it's to help these stories continue. The program included not just technical security measures, but also guidance on preserving business knowledge and values across generations. We partnered with family business consultants, legal experts, and financial advisors to create a comprehensive support system. The goal was to ensure that family businesses could maintain their independence while adapting to changing technologies. During the program's pilot phase, we worked with a third-generation jewelry store in Seattle's Pike Place Market. The current owner was preparing to hand the business to his daughter, who wanted to expand their online presence while maintaining the personal touch that had made them successful. Our team helped them develop security protocols that protected both their physical and digital assets, while preserving their traditional business relationships. The success of this program led to an unexpected reconciliation. Catherine Mitchell approached me about partnering with her new venture capital firm to support family business transitions. Her approach was different from her mother's. She understood the value of preserving independence while providing support for growth. Our collaboration with Catherine's firm showed how business relationships could work when based on mutual respect rather than control. We provided security expertise while her firm offered financial guidance, but all decisions remained with the business owners themselves. It was everything the Mitchell family's original involvement with SecureFlow should have been. This period of growth and innovation brought a personal realization. The Mitchells' attempt to take over SecureFlow, while painful at the time, had ultimately strengthened both the company and my own resolve. Every small business we helped protect, every family legacy we helped preserve, was a vindication of our stand for independence. One afternoon, I received an email from James. He had started a nonprofit focused on promoting ethical business practices, a clear departure from his family's traditional approach. While I appreciated the change in him, his message reinforced how right I had been to protect SecureFlow's independence. Some transformations can only happen when we stand firm in our values. The most satisfying moments came from unexpected sources. A group of computer science students from my alma mater had created a case study of SecureFlow's resistance to corporate takeover. Their professor invited me to speak to the class, where I found young entrepreneurs eager to learn how to build businesses that balanced profit with purpose. Success brought new possibilities I had never imagined during the dark days of the Mitchell conflict. SecureFlow had not just survived, we had created a new model for ethical business growth. Our revenues had tripled since breaking free from the Mitchell influence, but more importantly, we had protected over 10,000 small businesses across the country. One morning, I arrived at the office to find an unexpected visitor, Richard. Senior-eyed, looking noticeably aged but more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. He had officially retired from Mitchell Investments and wanted to share something important. "I've been watching what you've built," he said, settling into a chair in my office. "It's what I always wanted our family business to be, something that helps others succeed rather than consuming them." His words carried the weight of decades of regret. He shared stories of other entrepreneurs Barbara had pushed out over the years of promising businesses that had lost their soul under Mitchell control. "But you," he said, his eyes bright, "you showed there's another way. You've inspired a whole new generation of business leaders." This conversation led to an innovative partnership. Richard Sr. had maintained connections with numerous businesses that had sold to Mitchell Investments over the years. Many of them wanted to regain their independence but lacked the resources and support to do so. Together, we created the Business Restoration Fund, helping these companies restructure and return to independent ownership. The fund's first success story was a local coffee roasting company that had sold to the Mitchells 5 years earlier. Under corporate control, they had lost their community focus and quality had suffered. With our help, the original owner's daughter repurchased the business and restored its commitment to sustainable, local coffee sourcing. Within 6 months, their customer base had doubled. During this period, SecureFlow's innovation continued to evolve. Our development team, inspired by the Business Restoration Fund's mission, created specialized security tools for companies transitioning back to independent ownership. These tools protected not just their digital assets, but also their customer relationships and business processes during the crucial transition period. The impact of our work extended beyond individual businesses. We began seeing entire neighborhoods revitalize as local businesses regained their independence and community focus. In Seattle's Ballard District, a group of restored businesses formed a mutual support network, sharing resources and knowledge while maintaining their unique identities. One particularly meaningful project involved helping a family pharmacy chain reclaim its independence from a national corporation. The owner's grandfather had started the business in the 1950s, and watching the current generation restore its community-focused approach brought everything full circle. They became one of our strongest advocates, sharing their story with other businesses facing similar pressures. Our success attracted attention from business schools and economists studying alternative models of corporate growth. They were particularly interested in how SecureFlow had maintained rapid growth while staying true to our mission of protecting small businesses. Several universities began incorporating our story into their ethics and entrepreneurship curricula. The most significant validation came from an unexpected source. A major technology industry association, traditionally dominated by large corporations, created a new award category for community-focused innovation, inspired by SecureFlow's approach. When they asked me to chair the selection committee, I saw it as an opportunity to highlight other companies choosing independence over corporate consolidation. During this period, I received news about Barbara Mitchell. She had retired completely from business life, her influence in Seattle's corporate world finally waning. The last time I saw her was at a charity event. She seemed smaller somehow, less intimidating. When our eyes met across the room, she gave me a slight nod, perhaps the closest thing to acknowledgement I would ever receive. The contrast between her legacy and what we had built at SecureFlow couldn't have been clearer. While the Mitchell empire had been built on accumulating control, we had created success by empowering others to maintain their independence. Our growth hadn't come at the cost of others' dreams. It had helped those dreams flourish. The lessons learned through our struggle with the Mitchells began to crystallize into something larger than just business principles. During a leadership retreat at a small mountain lodge outside Seattle, our team reflected on the journey and what it meant for the future of business ethics in the digital age. The retreat location wasn't chosen randomly. It was a family-owned lodge that had been using SecureFlow's systems since our early days. The owner, an elderly gentleman named Frank, had resisted numerous buyout offers from hotel chains over the years. "Some things are worth more than money," he told us over breakfast. "Like watching my grandchildren learn to run this place the way their great-grandparents did." During our sessions, we documented the key insights that had emerged from our experience. First and foremost was the understanding that true security went beyond protecting data. It meant protecting the independence and values that made each business unique. We had learned this through our own fight with the Mitchells, and now we were helping others apply these lessons. One evening, as we gathered around the lodge's fireplace, Rachel shared a story that captured everything we had fought for. Her parents' restaurant, which had once been on the verge of selling to a chain, was now thriving as an independent business. They had used our security systems to modernize their operations while maintaining their traditional recipes and personal service. "That's what SecureFlow really protects," she said, "the ability to grow without losing your soul." This conversation sparked a new initiative, the Digital Independence Project. We began documenting success stories from businesses that had maintained their independence while embracing technological change. These weren't just security case studies. They were roadmaps for other small businesses facing similar challenges. The project's first publication featured stories from across the country. A family-owned bookstore that had successfully competed with online retailers. A local grocery chain that had modernized without losing its community focus. A craft brewery that had expanded while maintaining its independent spirit. Each story reinforced what we had learned in our own battle. That independence and growth weren't mutually exclusive. During this period, I received an invitation to join a prestigious business leadership council. Years ago, under Mitchell influence, I would have seen this as validation. Now, I recognized it as an opportunity to advocate for small business protection at a higher level. At my first council meeting, I challenged the assumption that corporate consolidation was inevitable in the digital age. Our experience had shown that there was another path. Through the Digital Independence Project, we were proving that small businesses could thrive in the modern economy while maintaining their unique character. The key was providing them with the right tools and support, exactly what the Mitchells had tried to prevent us from doing. The project's impact spread beyond our initial expectations. Business schools began incorporating our case studies into their curricula. Policymakers consulted our research when developing small business protection regulations. Even former Mitchell allies reached out to learn more about our approach to sustainable, independent growth. One particularly meaningful moment came when a young entrepreneur approached me after a conference presentation. She had been pressured to sell her startup to a larger corporation, but had resisted after reading about SecureFlow's story. "You showed me that standing your ground isn't just about being stubborn," she said. "It's about protecting something valuable." These interactions reinforced the broader significance of our stand against the Mitchells. We hadn't just protected one company's independence. We had helped create a framework for others to do the same. The Digital Independence Project became a resource for businesses at every stage of growth, from small startups to established family enterprises facing succession challenges. Our team continued to innovate, developing new security solutions, specifically designed for independent businesses. But more importantly, we maintained the perspective that had emerged from our own struggle, that technology should enable independence, not force consolidation. 5 years have passed since that fateful Easter lunch where the Mitchells tried to seize control of SecureFlow. Looking back from my office window at our new headquarters, a renovated historic building in Pioneer Square that we've turned into a hub for independent business innovation, I can hardly believe how far we've come. SecureFlow has grown beyond my wildest dreams, but not in the way the Mitchells had envisioned. Instead of becoming another corporate giant, we've become the backbone of a movement supporting independent business survival in the digital age. Our security systems now protect over 50,000 small businesses nationwide, each maintaining its unique character while competing effectively in the modern economy. Last week, I received an unexpected package. Inside was a handwritten letter from Barbara Mitchell. Her words were careful, measured, but carried an unmistakable tone of acknowledgement. "You proved me wrong," she wrote. "The success you've achieved while maintaining your principles has made me question everything I believed about business." Coming from Barbara, this was as close to an apology as one could expect. The timing of her letter was peculiar, arriving just as we launched our most ambitious project yet, the Small Business Digital Independence Institute. The institute, housed in our headquarters building, serves as both a training center and a think tank, helping small businesses navigate the challenges of digital transformation while maintaining their independence. During the institute's opening ceremony, I looked out at the audience and saw faces that told the story of our journey. Ellen Martinez, our first client, now running a successful chain of independent bookstores. Rachel Chen, who had stood by me during the darkest days, now heading our innovation department. Catherine Mitchell, who had broken free from her family's influence to support ethical business practices. Even James was there, sitting quietly in the back. We had reached a kind of peace over the years. He now runs a small consulting firm helping family businesses with succession planning, a complete departure from his Mitchell heritage. Sometimes, the best revenge is inspiring your adversaries to change. The Institute's first initiative focuses on something deeply personal to me: helping family businesses transition to the next generation without losing their independence. We've created a comprehensive program that combines cybersecurity with business preservation strategies, ensuring that family legacies can continue in the digital age. Looking around my office, I see reminders of our journey everywhere. The framed email from that Spokane bookstore owner, the whiteboard where we planned our defense against the Mitchell takeover, a photo of our team celebrating our first major contract after breaking free. But my favorite item is a simple plaque on my desk that reads, "Independence is not the absence of connection, but the presence of choice." SecureFlow's story has become a case study in business schools across the country, not just for our technical innovations, but for proving that ethical business practices and success aren't mutually exclusive. We've shown that standing firm for your principles, even in the face of overwhelming pressure, can lead to a different kind of growth, one that lifts up an entire community. Today, when I mentor young entrepreneurs, I share not just the story of our triumph over the Mitchells, but the deeper lessons we learned about how true security isn't just about protecting data, but about preserving the heart and soul of independent businesses. About how success doesn't have to come at the cost of your values. About how sometimes the hardest challenges lead to the most meaningful victories. As I write these final thoughts, I'm preparing for a meeting with a group of small business owners facing similar pressures to what we faced. Their stories are different, but the core challenge is the same: maintaining independence in a world that increasingly pushes for consolidation and control. I'll tell them what I've learned: that independence isn't just about ownership. It's about the freedom to stay true to your values, to serve your community in your own way, to write your own story. The Mitchells taught me this lesson, though not in the way they intended. Their attempt to take control of SecureFlow didn't weaken us. It showed us exactly who we were and what we were fighting for. And that fight continues, not just for SecureFlow, but for every independent business trying to maintain its unique character in an increasingly homogenized world. Our story isn't just about winning against corporate takeover. It's about proving that there's another way to succeed, one that preserves the dreams and values that make each business special. That's the real legacy of our stand against this for Mitchells, not just protecting one company's independence, but helping create a future where many more can do the same.